Welcome, guys. This is Coach Wilde on Running Wilde. Glad that you guys could make it. We're doing part 2 of our characteristics of a good coach. This week we're focusing on some characteristics and some points that I got from a football coach that I coach track with. He is quite a decorated gentleman, Coach Sigelski. He is inducted in the Wyoming High School Coaches Hall of Fame, so he's got some renown to him. Coach Sigelski's been a hurdle coach for us as well for quite some time. He's a real good coach. He's very well-rounded as a coach, and he's pretty good to go to with questions too. He's got a lot of answers with the questions that I have. But I mean, being a football coach anywhere is difficult because there's a lot of eyes on you, especially eyes from parents and other people that think that they would be a better coach than you, that are always questioning what you're doing. But it's a lot easier to coach from the couch than it is to coach on the sideline. That's true in any sport, though. The first point that we're going to talk about today is willing to change. You want to make sure that you're a lifetime learner. We've already talked about that. So with the willingness to change, what we're talking about is you're being open-minded as a coach. You're not just sticking to one line of thought and going from there. And most coaches, just because of our moods, we're going to be changing with our willingness day in and day out. We do want consistency with our willingness to change, but everything is a case-by-case basis, but there has to be consistency within what we're doing and why we're doing it. And with that, there's always going to be our own example, which is the next point. We want to make sure that we are setting a good example. Are we a good role model as a coach? I talked really heavily on how we can be a good role model, but it's more important that we have a captain, a kid on the team that's a real good role model, but we ourselves have to make sure that we are a good role model, because if we're not, kids are just going to be less likely to really listen to us when whether we reprimand them or we give them advice. When I first started coaching, I needed to go to a coaching clinic to get some credentials for the state of Wyoming and for my local school district to be allowed to coach. And so I went to this coaching clinic that the state of Wyoming has every year, and that year we were able to have Coach Craig Bull come down and be the main speaker for the whole conference. He represented football, but then he also was like the key speaker, the number one key speaker that came there. So I didn't get to hear him talk. I only got to hear this one talk. And he had a really good message. And the message was making sure that we're setting a good example to the kids. Because these kids, a lot of these kids, they've been lied to throughout their whole lives. And by the time they get to you, they're used to their coaches and those around them, especially adult figures, not keeping their word. This is when he was up in Fargo, where he won 3 national championships there before Wyoming was able to get a hold of him. This kid was completely out of his league, out of his program's league, and he asked the kid just, hey, if I could get you one thing, what would it be? And the kid was just like, I want some fried chicken. So when the kid first gets there, he's just talking to his mom, and the kid's walking around the room looking at these silver platters for catering. And he's going to each one and he's opening it up and looking at each one. And finally he gets to one of them, he opens it up, fried chicken in there. He closes it, comes over, and starts listening to Coach Bull. And from what I remember, that rest of the weekend, it was pretty much a done deal. He'd made his decision. And that was because Coach Bull kept his promise. As a coach, we need to make sure that we don't make promises that we can't keep, and we got to make sure that we don't overcommit. We want to make sure that the kids know that we believe in them and that we're there for them, but we can't be breaking promises to them. We can't be lying to them. And if we do, we have to be accountable, because when they lie or they don't do something, we discipline them. We're disappointed in them. It's got to be a two-way street, guys. We can't hold them to a higher standard than we hold ourselves. Next one is going to be attention to detail. And I'm not really talking about like, oh, coach, I got this doctor's appointment tomorrow, I'm going to miss tomorrow. I'm more talking about you need to make sure that you can see the strengths and the weaknesses of your athletes and your staff. You need to know what they're good at and what they're bad at, what they need to work on, what they're really good at. Because if you can do that, not only can you help them work on their weaknesses, but when you need them for a certain situation, you can call on them, athlete or assistant coach. That's really important because then you know and you can see the best in your kids and your staff. It's really important to know that you are trying to see the best in the kids. For your assistant coaches to see you doing that, your fellow coaches, if you're the assistant coach, to know that you're trying to find the best in each kid and work from there. All right, next one is wins and losses. You know, a lot of people will say that those columns don't matter. They do matter. And here's why they matter. You need to learn from your losses and your wins. Yes, most likely you're going to be able to learn a heck of a lot more than your losses because there's a lot more shortcomings, a lot more failings in there. But you know, there's times where you can learn a lot from a win because you got lucky or you did a lot of things right. And you can point to those specific things. Hey, see this here? You did this right. You anticipated and you attacked. Hey, this one, you saw, you didn't bite, you were able to get it. It's the same in all sports, guys. It's not just football, baseball, soccer, basketball. When you're looking at specific plays, you can watch and fix a lot of different things in every different sport. Some people may find it hard in swimming or running to find the little things that you can work on. A lot of times in running, they're going to look at form, but there's the easy things to go to, like, hey, you started your kick too early. You looked like you were a little fatigued. We need to find out if we are getting better, and wins and losses is a good way to help gauge that, as well as give ourselves a little bit of something to be proud in. Because you can be happy that you're improving all you want, but sometimes it's real nice to see that check in the win column instead of the L column. All right, guys, this last one, it's pretty important, and it may be the hardest one to master because it's very diverse, and also because you're learning and there's different situations, but you got to know your audience. Who are you talking to? Who are you working with? As a coach, you're working with parents, your own staff, you're working with administration, and they're always changing. Just like the students. Are we talking to our students and another group, or are we talking specifically to just our staff, to our parents, to our admin? How close are we to them? How open can we be? How proper do we have to talk? We need to be careful. You know, there's times where we say something out of frustration and it doesn't go well for us because we said something out of frustration. And that happens because we're passionate about our job. But we got to make sure that we don't make those simple mistakes. Happens all the time. We hear about it. Don't be a victim of it. You got to make sure that you're doing the best that you can when you're talking to these different groups. Coaches, you got to make sure you got someone you can lean on. If you don't got a coach you can lean on, you need to find somebody you can lean on, because you don't want to take your work home. Your spouse doesn't want to hear that. Your kids don't want to hear that. You need a chance to de-stress and let go after practices, especially if it's a rough season. And I bet you more than anything, this year might be one of the roughest seasons that we have had. I know that there's times where I'm really frustrated before I even get to practice because of all the emails I got during the day. We have people that we can talk to. We have our staff, we have the kids. Maybe we got some parents that we can talk to about the situations that are going on that could help us. You know, just because they're parents doesn't mean they have to be kind of blocked out and put on the other side of the fence, staying in the audience line. It's nice to have them around us sometimes, especially if they're helping. If they're causing problems, that is a real bad situation. All right, guys, thanks for coming. This is Coach Wilde on Running Wilde. Hopefully I see you out there running crazy.